Hello, this is AJ. Welcome to the next lesson. This one is called The Big Picture and it comes again from a book called The Big Picture, and the big picture is by a man named Dennis Licky. And now Licky is spelled Litty. Dennis Licky. The name of the book is The Big Picture. I love this book. This is a book about education, and Mr. Licky is an extremely interesting guy. He is just a fantastic teacher, a fantastic educator. Mr. Licky used to be a teacher, and then he became a principal of a middle school. Actually, I think he started as a principal of an elementary school, and then later a middle school, public school, just a normal public government school. He created an incredible school. At his first school, just an amazing school. There were articles written about his school. It just became so famous because this school had a lot of low-income students from poor families. So this was not in some rich neighborhood with a lot of money. And before Mr. Licky became the principal, the school was having a lot of problems. But he came in and he changed everything. He changed the teachers. He hired only passionate, excited, energetic teachers. But not only that, he changed the whole system. He stopped focusing on testing. He stopped focusing on grades. He focused on the students as human beings. He wanted his students to grow as people, not just to memorize a bunch of facts, but to really learn how to think, and even more importantly, how to use their thinking and use their knowledge. So, for example, most of his classes were project-based. In other words, the students did not study textbooks and take tests. No. What they did is they created a project, and each project was individual. Each student chose a project or projects based on their own interests. And of course, the teachers helped to guide these projects and structure them. So, for example, if one child really loved dinosaurs, they would create a project about dinosaurs. The teachers, the math teachers, the science teachers, etc. The English teachers would help that student learn math, learn science, learn English, learn history, learn everything, or focused on dinosaurs, because this kid loved dinosaurs, so they would use dinosaurs to teach math. For example, maybe they had to learn how to calculate the size of a dinosaur's bones or something. I don't know exactly how they did it, but they used the students' individual passions to teach, and the students had to do these incredibly amazing, huge, difficult projects. These were not easy. They were really tough. But the kids were very passionate about what they were doing. And another thing that Dennis Licky did, he involved the community. His school had mentors, advisors, helpers from the community, parents, especially parents, but also experts. So, for example, if a kid really loved dinosaurs, or maybe a whole class were really interested in dinosaurs, they brought experts from museums, from universities to teach these kids very advanced stuff about dinosaurs, including math and science, everything. And so the kids were so excited. They learned to love learning again. They became passionate about learning. No more bullshit tests. At the end of their big projects, they had to give demonstrations, presentations. And this is what happens in the real world, right? If you're at the job, you don't take a test A, B, C, D. What you usually do is you have some project at your job, and when you finish the project, you present the project to your customers or to your boss or to somebody you stand up, or in writing you have to present. Here's what I did. Here were the results. And well, that's what the kids do in front of all the class, including parents. They stand up and they give these long demonstrations, exhibitions, presentations, and that's how they are graded based on their presentations, based on what they learn, not some stupid test. The most wonderful thing about this is, guess what? And these students still had to take certain tests. The government said they must take them. His students were fantastic on the test. They would never took tests during their normal school time. They never focused on the test. They never prepared for the test. But what happened is these kids learned to love learning. They loved so much more with his methods, and his school became the top school in the state on the test, even on the test. Interesting. Whereas the other schools at the were focused on the test all the time. Textbooks and tests, and they actually perform less well even on the test. What's even worse is the normal schools. Not only did they worse on the test, the kids were bored. They didn't like learning. The teachers had no energy. They were bored. It's just amazing. And now even better, here's what Dennis Leakey did after that. He decided he still couldn't do everything he wanted to do at the public school, so he created his own schools. They're called the math schools, M-E-T, and these math schools are private schools. However, they are not private schools for rich people. In fact, most of the students are poor, not rich. But they're still very tough. They don't accept everybody. They have to interview to get into the school. Every student has to interview to get into the school. They have to talk about their passions. They have to talk about why they want to join the school. There has to be some motivation for the students and the parents. And the parents also have to interview. It's not about money, it's about passion, and these schools are absolutely fantastic. They're probably the best schools in the United States. He's got a high school and middle school. I don't know. I think he has an elementary school too. I don't know. They've got different schools around the country now. I'm not sure how many. He's got a website. Do a search for Dennis Leakey or for the big picture, and you can read more about it. So anyway, in his book, he writes a little bit about learning. It's a fantastic book if you're a teacher or if you're a parent. I highly recommend this book. Let me read a little bit from the book. Here we go. Real learning is not memorizing knowledge, it's understanding and knowing how to use and find knowledge. Learning is what you do with knowledge, how you integrate it, how you talk to your family, friends and classmates about it. That's what learning is, as noted psychology and education expert Seymour Saracen reminded me recently. It's similar to psychologists' belief that patients don't get better during their therapy, but between their therapy times. Students likewise don't learn so much during class as they do between classes. That's where the real learning happens. Now, I'm not suggesting we throw out everything schools do now, but I'm suggesting that we look more deeply at what we define as learning. I'm suggesting we be honest and try different things and see what works. Learning is about learning how to think. And my new friend Tom Magliozzi from National Public Radio's popular car talk show has a lot to say about what learning really is. One of my favorite parts of his book is when Tom, a man with a PhD in chemical and engineering from MIT, says this. It seems to me that schools primarily teach kids how to take tests, which is a skill that one hardly uses in real life unless one is a contestant on a quiz show. Elementary school prepares kids for junior high. Junior high prepares them for high school. High school prepares them for university. University prepares them for graduate school. So the role of schools, if we can call it that, is simply to prepare kids for more school. Okay, so interesting, huh? Very nice. I love the section of his book. I love his whole book. But he's absolutely right. The traditional schools you went to when you learned English in middle school or high school or university, they were the same. They were not preparing you for life. They were not teaching you how to learn. They were certainly not helping your passion. They were not increasing your passion for learning. Probably they were killing your passion for learning. All that schools were really doing were preparing you for more school. They were preparing you to take tests. Guess what? When you leave school, do you take many tests at your job right now? Do you take tests every day, every week? Do they give you a test? Choose A, B, C, D? And your job, your boss gives you a grade. Oh, congratulations, you got 90% on your test. Here's more money for your job. Of course not. School is a sort of a bullshit environment that is only appropriate for school. That's why we have so many bored students. That's why students hate school. It's not because of the internet. It's not because of TV. It's because kids are smart. Maybe they're smarter now today. I don't know. Kids are smart. They know that what's happening in school is bullshit. They know their classes are bullshit. They know their teachers are also full of shit. I mean, I figured that out when I was in middle school. I think I was a slow learner. It took me a long time to figure it out. A lot of smart kids today, they figure it out when they're in first grade or they're really young. But it's true, what you learn in school, how much of what you learn in school do you actually use now? I'm glad I learned to read. I'm glad I learned basic math. Other than that, most of what I find useful in terms of knowledge, in terms of skills, in terms of abilities, I learn by myself. I learn because I love learning, because I have read so many books outside the school, and they have met so many great teachers outside the school. That's where all my incredible learning has happened, not in school. So it's just terrible what we're doing with education. It's all over the world. It's in the United States. It's horrible. I talked in public schools in Japan. They are terrible. They're terrible in Thailand. They're terrible in Europe. They're terrible everywhere because they're focused on tests. They're focused on repairing kids for more school, and then you get out in the real world. You get out in the world of jobs, and suddenly you have to do something completely different. Suddenly you have to actually perform. You actually have to do things. You have to communicate. You have to have good relations with other people. You have to learn by yourself. You have to do research. You have to find the knowledge. And you have to have, most of all, some kind of energy and passion and leadership. And that's what success is in the real world. And that's what gives you success in the real world. In school, those things get punished. Passion in school, that's usually the kid who's getting in trouble all the time, the kid who has too much energy, the kid who has too much passion, right? The kid who asks too many questions, they get in trouble. The kids who sit there quietly, bored, doing what they're told, they do well in school. They do very badly in the real world. And so Dennis Leakey is saying we've got to change our schools. We're not learning, we're not living in the 19th century anymore. We're not living in the 20th century anymore. We're not repairing kids for factories now. We need kids and adults to be able to think creatively, imaginatively. We need people who can communicate, who can stand up in front of a group and communicate with intelligence and passion. People who can create things, people who can build teams, people who know how to find knowledge. You don't need to memorize it, you just need to be able to find it. Albert Einstein talked a lot about that. He said intelligence is being able to find knowledge, knowing how to find it, and not memorizing it. For example, phone numbers, you don't need to memorize the phone book. You just need to know how to use it. And the internet is a great tool for that. We don't have to memorize all these facts. If I want to know a fact from US history, I don't need to memorize it. I can just get on the internet and find it. When was the American Declaration of Independence signed? What exactly day? Well, we all learned that in school, and of course we all know that. But if I didn't know it, I could get on the internet. I could find it in about 30 seconds. You could even if you're from any country in the world. You never learned that. Very easy for you to find that information. So what we have to be doing is learning how to find facts, not trying to memorize them. That's why we have computers. What we have to focus on is learning how to use our brains, learning how to learn, learning how to find knowledge, learning how your brains work. That's what we really need to do. That's true learning. And that's what we're trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do at Effortless English for You, adult learners. Most of you, unfortunately, have been through a lot of bad school experiences. You've been through these horrible schools. Well, I'm trying to destroy those experiences. I'm trying to give you something completely new and different. I am trying to awaken your passion for learning again. And that is my mission. And that's why I'm yelling. And that's why I jump around. And that's why I have so much energy in my voice. That's why I tell these crazy stories. It's because I'm trying to wake you up. Wake up. Learning is incredible. It's not school. It's not that bullshit. Learning is what you are naturally programmed to do, and it's what your brain wants to do, your soul wants to learn. So I hope I'm doing a good job. I'm sorry I've been yelling at the time, but I hope I'm doing that. I hope I'm waking up your desire, your love for learning. Alright, I will see you next time. On to the vocabulary lesson. Hi, this is AJ again. Welcome to the next lesson. This lesson is called Small is Beautiful. Small is Beautiful is the name of a book by E.F. Schumacher. It's a very interesting book. It's a little bit difficult to read. The little of English is actually fairly difficult, but I do recommend it. If you have an advanced level of English, go ahead. Try to read Small is Beautiful. It's an excellent book. E.F. Schumacher was an economist, still is an economist, and he wrote Small is Beautiful to talk about the economic problems we have in the world. Now, this book was published back in the late 70s, I believe, and it has been updated more recently. But the basic idea of Small is Beautiful is that our economies in the world are big businesses have become too big and they are not sustainable anymore. Too big, in other words, we're destroying the planet Earth because we are consuming too much. Our economies are too big, our population too big, our companies too big. Everything has grown too large, and his solution, as you might guess, is that we need smaller economies, more local economies, more green economies. So he was writing about this long before Air War, and an inconvenient truth, and a lot of other things which are quite common right now, but he was writing about these things way back in the 70s. He realized that we're going to have to make some changes. Our planet is being destroyed. We have to do something, and we need to start at the economic level. We have to change our economic system so that it is more human, so that it serves human beings, not just super large companies. And of course, we talked about these economies and his solutions in a lot of detail. Like I said, he was an economist. He is an economist. So he has a lot of very detailed economic arguments, and he analyzes things from an economic viewpoint. It's very interesting. Today I want to read to you just a short passage from his book, and this passage really talk about the key central core problem in his opinion. What is the most basic problem? What is causing all these economic problems we see in the world, or the environmental destruction, the wars we see constantly was the root cause. And let me read from the book right now. Economically, our wrong living consists primarily in systematic cultivating greed and envy, and thus building up a vast array of totally unnecessary wants. It is the sin of greed that has delivered us over into the power of the machine. If greed were not the master of modern man, how could it be that the frenzy of consumerism does not abate at higher standards of living, and that it is precisely the richest societies which pursue their economic advantage with the greatest ruthlessness? How could we explain the almost universal refusal on the part of the rulers of the rich societies to work towards the humanization of work, so destroying meaningless, mechanical, monotonous, moronic work that is an insult to human nature? These are the facts which are neither denied nor acknowledged, but are met with an unbreakable silence, because to deny them would be too obviously absurd, and to acknowledge them would condemn the central preoccupation of modern society as a crime against humanity. Okay, I told you it would be difficult, and it is a little difficult, so let me explain a little of what a distraction means. What is he talking about? So he's saying that our modern problem economically in life, comes from greed and envy. Greed and envy are the problems that our societies now cultivate. Greed and envy, of course. Cultivate means grow. So our societies, our cultures are now growing greed and envy. They encourage greed and envy in people. People getting more greedy, more envious. And as people become more greedy and envious, they develop a lot of unnecessary wants. He starts wanting more, always wanting more. So he said it's this sin, it's greed, this problem of greed that has made us slaves to machines. That's what he's saying, delivered us into the power of the machine. He's talking about it's made us slaves to our big companies. It's made us slaves to computers, to machines, to this modern life that we're not free anymore because of this greed and envy. And then he talks about, he says that you see that it's true because the richest countries, the places where people have the most, such as the United States, they are the most ruthless about wanting more and more. So in other words, there is never enough. The richest countries are the most brutal, the most tough, the most ruthless, trying to get even more and more. So he's saying it never ends, right? If someone's very rich, then they want even more money. It never stops. And he says the other problem is that people who aren't rich, they are stuck in destroying jobs. That work is mostly meaningless, mechanical, monotonous, and moronic. Moronic means stupid. In most of the world, most jobs, most work is just horrible. Now you may like your job But of course, he's thinking about all the thousands of people, for example, in China working in terrible factories. Well, millions, not thousands, millions and millions all over the world. Poor people working horrible jobs, terrible jobs, soul-destroying jobs, jobs that destroy their health and their life and their happiness. So he's saying these are facts. Everybody knows the truth, but there's an unbreakable silence about it. So he's saying people don't talk about it, and you don't hear about it on the news. People don't talk about all the horrible job and work conditions for most people in most countries. There is silence about it. Nobody talks about it. They don't condemn it because that's absurd, that's crazy. They can't condemn it. They can say it's not true because everybody knows it and knows it is true, but they can't talk about it because then they would condemn the central preoccupation of our society. Preoccupation means what we think about our world. So he's saying that everybody just ignores it. We pretend it's not happening. So he's saying this is the problem. The central problem that we are creating so much greed and envy everywhere, that our whole economic system is driven by greed and envy, that our whole culture, global culture, is based upon greed and envy, and that's what most advertising is about. That's what most of our whole economic systems and even our governments encourage it. Greed and envy, greed and envy, greed and envy in all our societies. And that is destroying the planet, it's destroying our culture, it's destroying the people and their jobs, it's destroying everything. So that's not a very happy thought, but I think he's probably right. I think we can all see that he's right. Now, luckily, the book is actually very positive. So he's talking about the problem here, and we all can see the problem, and it is a very terrible problem, and we all know that people are suffering everywhere in the world working these horrible jobs, and we all know that greed and envy are controlling most of our governments, most of our countries, most of our societies. But the good news is that in this book, Small is Beautiful, he has a lot of great solutions about creating local economies that are not based upon greed and envy, and creating sustainable economies, meaning that they can keep going year after year, decade after decade, century after century, without destroying the earth, without destroying people. So this book is a very practical book, and he has a lot of very practical suggestions on how we can change. So I do highly recommend reading Small is Beautiful by E.F. Schumacher, and if you don't read that, then I hope you will at least start learning more about ecology and the green movement and sustainable economics, because these are very important issues to our planet, to everybody living on it. So I hope you enjoy this Small is Beautiful. And next is, of course, the vocabulary lesson. So I'll see you next time. Hello, this is AJ. Welcome to our next lesson. This lesson is called Slow Burn, and this is about one of my favorite topics, energy. This topic today is about energy. How can you get more energy in your body and in your life? Slow burn, of course, is the name of a book by a man named Stu Middleman. And now, who is Stu Middleman? Stu Middleman is a maniac. He's an amazing guy, Stu Middleman, who I may have mentioned already before, but we're going to talk about him today in more detail. He is an ultra-marathon runner. Now a marathon is 26 miles. 26.2. Wow, that's not enough for Stu. That's boring. That's a short distance. Anybody can run 26 miles, so Stu runs 100 miles races. He also does crazy races where he will run for 6 days without stopping, just running and running. He doesn't even sleep. He runs for 6 days, 6-day races, and they see who can run the longest amount, the farthest in 6 days, and Stu has won several of these races. I believe it was for his 50th birthday. He ran across the United States from San Diego, California to New York City just to celebrate his birthday. He ran 2 marathons every day until he reached New York City. He did not take a break. No, I mean he did sleep, I think, but he did not skip a day. Every day he ran 2 marathons until he went from San Diego to New York City. So as you can guess, Stu Middleman has a lot of energy. He's an energy maniac. He's full of energy and he's very, very, very healthy. Obviously, you can't keep running that amount unless you're very healthy. So Stu's one of my heroes. I want to be like Stu. In fact, I have decided to run a 50-mile race to challenge myself to get healthier and stronger. So my goal now is to run a 50-mile race, and you can check on the forums and see if I'm doing it. So that's my challenge. So this book, Slow Burn, that Stu wrote, is about energy and it's about his system of training of getting your body healthier, stronger, and more energetic. And what's interesting is that Stu has a very different approach than a lot of other fitness coaches. In fact, it was a little surprising to me. I've been running many years during my life, so I was a little surprised by his training method. So I'm going to read a little bit from his book, and then I'll talk more about his specific training method, something that anybody can use because it's actually very easy. So I love it. Here we go. This is from his book, the book Slow Burn by Stu Middleman. Life is a marathon, not a sprint, and you must prepare accordingly. Unlike sprinters who focus on how fast they can get to the finish line, endurance athletes have no finish line. There is only the present movement in which they must remain connected to their body, in tune with their every move, in a place that feels comfortable and productive, and that they are able to maintain indefinitely. People today have challenges that are comparable to an endurance event that seemingly never ends. We have to get up earlier, work longer hours, and attempt to cave out. a high quality family or personal time. And then we have to wake up the next day and do it again and again and again and again. To be productive in the long run of life, you have to pace yourself in order to feel strong, alert and energetic, or with the right pace, with the right mindset, with the right diet. Anything is possible. Constant energy. Feeling is wrong at the end of the day as when you started and maintaining a consistently positive attitude. For most of my life, I've been a professional endurance athlete. And now, like you, I am participating in the marathon of life. I still run every day. I manage a business. I raise a family with my wife. Running gives me the energy to do this. No matter what's going on in my life, I run a couple of hours a day. Not because I think I have to, but because I am certain that when I am moving, I feel great. I also know that after I run, I will have even more energy for the rest of the day. I'll be able to think more clearly. I'll be able to concentrate better. I'll feel more relaxed and at ease. When I'm in this state, anything and everything is possible. The experience is magical. I consider it a gift, one that ignites my life's mission, which is to get people to transform movement into an act that is absolutely satisfying. I recognize that in order to receive the gift that running offers me, I have to commit some of my time, yet in this instance, the relinquishing of my time actually creates more time. An hour set aside for generating reliable and everlasting energy frees up 2 to 3 or more hours in a day that might have otherwise have been allocated to sleep or rest. Suppose you could sleep less yet feel even more rested and alive. What would you do with the extra hours that certainly appeared in your day? Okay, wow, that's from Stu Middleman's book, Slow Burn. So Stu is saying that actually the time he spends running gives him more time to do other things. So what does he mean? He means if he runs 2 hours, it gives him so much energy that he can sleep less and still feel great. So maybe he sleeps 2 or 3 hours less every day. Because he has so much energy, he still feels fantastic. So it's actually not costing him more time. He's actually gaining time, productive time, by spending time for running, by running every day. And then more generally, what he's talking about is the fact that by moving, by running, and by also eating very well, that he is giving power to everything in his life. He has more energy for his wife. He has more energy for his children. He has more energy for his business. He has more energy for everything. That's the gift of running. And you know, he is a runner. Of course, you can also swim or you could ride a bicycle if you prefer those activities. Running is a quite nice activity because it's so simple. There's no equipment. There's no special place you need to go. You just need shoes, or you don't even need shoes actually. There's a lot of professional runners in Africa who run without shoes, so you don't need anything. So anyway, this is a great book. Now let me talk about specifically Stu Middleman's running program, because he has one very important idea about running that really is the most important. It's the foundation of his running approach, and is the reason his book is called Slow Burn. Stu Middleman advocates. Stu Middleman teaches slow running. Most people, he says, run too fast. The reason that's bad is that when you run fast, you start breathing heavy. If you're breathing heavy, it means your body is burning mostly sugar, and you're using mostly the sugar in your blood and in your muscles. You're running sugar for energy. That's what happens when you run faster. So anytime if you're running or exercising, and any kind of exercise, if you're breathing heavy like that, it means you're burning sugar. The problem with that is sugar gives you quick energy in a short time, but then soon after your energy drops suddenly. So you go up with energy very high, and then suddenly it drops, right? If you eat a lot of sugar, you feel very good for maybe 30 minutes or an hour, and after that your energy drops a lot, and then you feel very tired after that. So it's up down. It's not good steady energy. So Stu trains his body to burn fat. Fat is better for steady energy. If you burn fat, then you just always have high energy all the time. It doesn't go up and down. It's nice and steady, just a high level of energy all the time. To burn fat, you must exercise more slowly. So when I started using Stu's program, I was surprised. I used to run a lot. I still run some. I've already run in 2 marathons and finished 2 marathons. So I thought, hey, I'm a runner. But when I ran, I was running too fast. So now I'm training with Stu's program. It feels so slow. It's a very, very, very slow jog. In fact, San Francisco has a lot of big hills. When I go up the hills, I walk. So I walk up the big hills, and then I jog slowly if it's flat, and then I run a little faster if I'm going down the hill. But the main idea is that you want to exercise slowly, so you should never be breathing hard. If you're breathing like that, it means you're going too fast, and you should slow down if necessary. Just walking, you know you can walk quickly. That's still a great exercise. If you want to run, if you can run, that's fine too, but chop very slowly. A good rule, a good idea is you should be able to have a conversation while you're jogging. If you're jogging with another person, you should be able to walk to them comfortably and easily. If you can't, if you're breathing too hard and you can really talk well, that means you're going too fast. Slow down. So again, the general idea of Stu's program is slow exercise for a longer time. So of course you can do it longer because it's not so difficult. You're going slow. It feels nice. It's very easy actually, and because it's kind of easy, you can do it for a longer period of time. And that's why he calls this slow burn. When you exercise in this way, you teach your body to burn fat. And now one great thing about that is you will lose weight. If you're overweight, if you have too much fat on your body, you start to burn that fat, and that's a nice side effect. But more importantly for me is that you will get more energy for all of the day. Recently, I've noticed that I have more energy. In the past, I used to eat a lot of sugar, and my energy would go up and down, and up and down. And now I'm trying to eat less sugar, and I'm also exercising more slowly, and I'm feeling more steady energy. Now sometimes I still feel tired, of course, and sometimes I still have really high energy, but in general most of the day I just feel better. I have a more steady high level of energy that doesn't change as much. So I encourage you to get out, and when you're listening to these lessons, walk quickly or even throw very slowly. You can do two things at the same time. You can learn English and you can make your body feel better. But when you do it, just go slowly. Enjoy it. The nice thing about training in this way, exercising in this way, it feels good. You're not killing your body, right? You can get out. You go for a nice fast walk. You can smile, look around, enjoy the city if you live in a city, or enjoy the trees and the sky if you live in the countryside. Look around, look at people, smile. Or you can maybe walk with another person if you want and chat with them. Or put on your iPod and listen to me and just do a nice slow talk or a nice fast walk. And you can do that for an hour. It's very easy. You can do it an hour every day. You're learning English at the same time, so you're doing two great things at one time. So please, I recommend this book very highly, Slow Burn by Stu Middleman. And Stu's name is spelled S-T-U. That's his first name, Stu. His last name is Middleman. Middleman. Alright, I hope you use this program. I especially hope you use it at the same time you're listening to me learn English and get energy and health for your body at the same time. Alright, I will see you for the vocab and mini story, and you have a great day.